Her colleagues gossip about manager Kim, the one who said she was just going on vacation. Her face changed again this time. One of them notes maybe she got more work done. One girl guesses, but the other shrugs. So what? All that matters is whether she got prettier. Yun silently sips her drink, hoping to stay out of it, but then they turn to her for an opinion. When she blinks, clearly clueless, they press, doesn't she want plastic surgery? She quietly admits she's not that interested in being pretty. But one girl insists that she's the vice president's secretary and their VP isn't just any VP, he's flawless. Looks, skills, personality, everything. So shouldn't she at least try to match that level? Honestly, who would believe she is his secretary just by looking at her? Just then, heavy rain comes crashing down. The group scrambles for shelter, but once they're under cover, they realize Yun has disappeared. One of the girls mutters not to bother looking, she only came because Sujin asked her to, and honestly, it's kind of embarrassing to be seen with someone like that. Meanwhile, inside a quiet restroom, Yun pulls off her wig, stares into the mirror and lets out a slow breath that was close. She almost got caught. She used to be pretty well by most people's standards anyway. Sharp facial features, 170 centimeters tall, naturally good body. Everyone turns their heads whenever she walks past. Some people might envy her, but really if they had gone through what she did, would they still feel the same? Being stalked by strangers, having a total stranger suddenly grab her wrist. It happened all the time. At some point, she started to feel uncomfortable in her own skin. After that unforgettable incident, she decided to hide herself. With her disguise flawless, one foot again, she whispers perfect and heads out. On her way back, she bumps into a man and begins to apologize, only to fall silent the moment she recognizes him on Do Hyun, the vice president of Wongsung Card. He says he's been looking for her, calling her just the person he needed, and asks to talk for a moment. Later, as she stands alone in his office, awkwardly waiting, she wonders what this is about and why he hasn't said anything yet, especially after calling her in so directly. Then, without warning, he says they should live together. She stares at him, stunned, asking what he just said, and he repeats it, he wants them to live together. Caught off guard, she rushes to clarify she isn't thinking about marriage at all, but he calmly explains that's not what he meant. He's simply suggesting they share the same space, because, as he puts it, the same phrase can mean different things. It is the same for him, marriage and he's not interested in either. He questions then why did he suddenly suggest that to her. He casually says because she is a good fit. Stunned, she asks him what is she exactly a good fit. He replies she meets the criteria he's looking for. Attractive appearance. Someone who understands his views on marriage. The fact her appearance is attractive to him makes her momentarily speechless. She catches her reflection in the window, then turns to him, asking if he's seriously saying he thinks she looks good. He says yeah without missing a beat and adds so they should live together. Later, she takes in his place with wide, awestruck eyes. She snaps out of it only when he calls her name twice, so he can ask how long is she going to just stand there and gawk. She quickly apologizes. And then he offers her the marriage contract. Yo Yun and On Do Hyun agree to marry based on mutual consent as a contract. The marriage registration will be processed at the district office and there will be no wedding ceremony. Neither party will harbor romantic feelings towards the other. The contract term is set for 2 years from the signing date. He says they have already spent 3 years working side by side, physically and emotionally. Talking about what marriage means to them is a waste of time. They pretend to be tied down by the institution of marriage that adults expect from them, and in return they gain their freedom. He concedes that is the kind of marriage he thinks she and he both want. Later that night, her friend urges her to stay for a drink, telling her not to be like that, but she insists she just wants to go home. Her friend asks did she coat her house with honey or something? Why is she always rushing back lately? Actually, come to think of it, she's been acting strange lately. She jokingly accuses her of hiding a guy at home. Startled, she blurts out a panicked of course not, but her flustered reaction only fuels suspicion. Her friend is convinced she's hiding something. Before the interrogation can continue, she bolts, prompting her friend to yell after her where does she think she is running off to. On her way, she thinks honey-coated huh. Well, if your house is a penthouse, wouldn't every day feel like heaven? And the most important part, no one listens to mom's nagging about marriage. Just then, he walks in. She greets him, and he casually returns it, telling her to take a break. She lives on the second floor, the vice president on the first one. Since the house is perfectly divided, they barely ever run into each other. Of course, since they do live under the same roof, there have been close calls. She is determined to never let the vice president see her real self. If he ever finds out, everything will fall apart. 4 months later, they arrive at his family's house. but she pauses at the entrance, prompting him to turn and ask what's wrong and why she isn't going in. She admits she's just a little nervous, but he frowns, saying that doesn't sound like her, it's not even her first time meeting him. She agrees but insists that today feels different, and for some reason, she's oddly nervous. He assures her that even if Grandpa scolds her, he'll take the blame, so there's nothing for her to worry about. Her cheeks flush as she nods with a quiet okay. Together, they step inside and are led to where the grandpa awaits. His grandfather slams a fist on the table the moment he sees them, barking that he told him to be here by 6. On Gap Su, chairman of Woozing Group demands, how many times have we told him time management is essential for someone leading a company? If he cannot even show up on time for a family meet, how will he run a company? He quickly says Yun was ready early, but he had an outside engagement so they were a little late. He apologizes but she quickly cuts it, saying it is not like that. He is being considerate of her. She's sorry for being late. On Diak-hu, vice chairman of Woozing Electronics calls her daughter-in-law and says it must have been tiring getting here. He mentions she must be hungry and gestures for her to take a seat. She immediately complies. Her father-in-law says last time she seemed to enjoy the braised short ribs, so he asked the housekeeper to make them again. She thanks him with a beaming smile, admitting she was just thinking about short ribs. He tells her to go and try it. The grandfather then casually adds, when are the two finally going to give her news about a grandchild? It has already been 4 months since they got married. He reminds his Do-hyun, didn't he say he wouldn't marry anyone? But secretly you went and filed the marriage papers without even holding a proper wedding. Didn't he promise him a grandchild right away? He replies they are trying their best every night. But if they insist too hard you won't survive at this rate. The grandfather reminds him, like he said before, they cannot announce their marriage to the public until they bring him a grandchild. Do-hyun replies he will keep that in mind while you wonders how can he lie like that with a straight face. The grandfather, watching them intently, suddenly asks, are the two of them truly in love? Both of them are stunned into silence before Do-hyun blurts out, of course they got married because they love each other. He says from where he's sitting, they don't look very affectionate. Do-hyun glances at her and says he's not sure what he means. The grandfather suddenly says he despises liars more than anything and he's sure he knows that better than anyone else. After all, one woman's lie once left a deep scar on this family. The vice chairman tells him not to bring that up here. Do-hyun speaks up, saying she is not that kind of person so he needs to stop. But the old man snaps, saying he wasn't speaking to him but his secretary. He demands she answer him. He asks her if there's anything she's lying to him about. Are they truly in love with each other? She thinks love truly, she wouldn't know until she has experienced it. It cannot be helped. She decides to just imagine the vice president while she speaks. She lets him know honestly, when he asks her whether she is in love, she is not sure. She is inexperienced, so she doesn't know if what she feels is love. But she finds herself thinking all day about what he might like as a secretary. She doesn't add that though. She always wants to be by his side and look after what he needs once again as his secretary. And more than anything, she realized that being near him makes her want to become a better person. It is hard to define love in words, but that is how she feels about him. Tense silence falls over the table before the chairman clears his throat and says he understands how she feels. But that answer isn't enough. Maybe she has won Do-hyun's heart but not his yet. He will be keeping an eye on her, and to keep this in mind, becoming a daughter-in-law of this family won't be easy. She says yes grandpa, but then he screams to address her as chairman, how dare she. Later as they return to the penthouse, her legs feel unsteady beneath her. He notices and asks what's wrong and she admits her knees simply gave out from all the tension. He tells her she did well, that she spoke really well back there, but then his tone shifts as he asks if she truly meant what she said earlier. She scrambles to come up with a response, only for him to cut her off with a simple never mind, telling her to rest and thanking her for clearing his schedule, saying once more that she did well. But just as he turns to leave, she calls out to him and quietly asks if he'd like to have dinner together. She knows they agreed not to interfere in each other's personal lives, but situations like this will probably come up again. So she was thinking maybe it is not a bad idea if they know a little about each other. However, he sternly says no, he's sorry but they are in a relationship strictly based on contract. It is probably best to avoid any private interactions. He tells her he's counting on her and walks off, leaving her behind with nothing but the thought that maybe she shouldn't have said anything at all. The next morning she goes to meet her best friend, Im Ha-yeol, who tells her as soon as she got her call, she ran right over. Her best friend then notices looking at her, her face is basically screaming worry, and asks her if something happened. She admits she cannot hide anything from her, she knows all her secrets anyway, but she thinks this whole contract marriage might get exposed soon. Im Ha-yeol replies she suspected something was off when she mentioned a contract marriage on the phone, so what is exactly the problem? She replies turns out just sticking to the contract isn't as simple as it sounds. After meeting the chairman, she can tell he's going to catch on fast. He is incredibly sharp, but more than that, they barely know each other. Anyone could see right through them. Im Ha-yeol mentions she has heard the vice president is pretty cold and aloof, but he is her husband now. Shouldn't she at least try talking to him? She questions how is she supposed to talk to someone when she doesn't even know whether he is home or not. Im Ha-yeol's voice rises as she suddenly says she needs to take the lead. And if that doesn't work, she can try seducing him. Though honestly, in her current state she is not sure she could pull off a seduction. Yu honestly replies she cannot even manage a meal or a conversation with him, much less a seduction. At this point, she's honestly thinking it might be better if the truth just came out. She casually asks what if that happens and her mom finds out everything. Reminding her she has been so determined to get her married, and now that she is married, she adores her perfect son-in-law. She tells her to just imagine how crushed she would be if she knew the truth. Yu blurts out no way, she would clutch her neck in shock. Im Ha-yeol adds it is not just her mom, her father-in-law has been gushing about how much he adores his daughter-in-law. To mention her job obviously, her in-laws, her mom and her workplace. The day the lie gets exposed, everything around her is going to blow up. Then, as if she hadn't just spelled out impending doom, Im Ha-yeol gives her a light smile and asks if she's feeling a little more motivated to act now. Kim Jae-ha stands by the window, watching the city below. He remarks that Woo Seung-card ranked second in the online popularity poll and reminds Do-hyun he always said he's chairman material. Then he half turns and adds, but is he really husband material though? Do-hyun shoots him a look, calling him ungrateful and reminding him who saved him from endless marriage nags. Who gave him the brilliant idea to propose a contract marriage to Secretary Yu? It was him. At the very least he should be saying thanks bro, he owes him. Without him he would be totally doomed. Do-hyun shoots back, doesn't he have work to do? But he ignores that and asks if his wife cooks well. He replies no idea, they have never eaten together. It is just a contract marriage anyway. Does that stuff even matter? Kim Jae-ha looks stunned and asks not even once. Do-hyun reminds him wasn't he the one saying he would live together like strangers? Barely breathing the same air. His friend snaps did not think he would take that literally. He is hopeless at this rate, the truth is gonna come out in no time. His friend challenges with how cold he acts. How long does he think he can fool his grandfather? Honestly, he feels bad for his wife. She must be struggling on her own. Struggling on her own, the words give him a pause. Come to think of it, while Secretary Yu was struggling on her own, he was too busy keeping his distance. He thought following the contract to the letter was better. Now he finds himself thinking, was he too indifferent to her who was at least trying? Later that night, when she returns, he glances up from the sofa and says she's late, his tone casual. She replies just as simply, saying she had another appointment. He doesn't respond, just watches her. Remembering her friend's advice to be more proactive, she tells herself not to lose momentum. She calls out to him, hesitating only a moment, and then tells him not to take this the wrong way, but like she said before, maybe they should try to get to know each other a little more. He replies he doesn't want to misunderstand, but it is hard not to when she says things like this. She gives a small nod in greeting and tells him to have a good night before turning to leave, but he calls out to her. She pauses and turns back. All right, he says. How about dinner tomorrow? Finally, she's having dinner with the vice president. But the problem is, when she asked him what kind of food did he like, he simply said he was fine with anything. After working with him for years, she still feels like she barely knows him. She needs to use this opportunity to learn more about him. Just then, her colleague appears beside her asking what is she thinking so hard about. She admits she was thinking about what to make for the vice president's dinner after his meeting. Her friend groans she's so jealous she gets to see that dreamy vice president every day. She wonders what it would be like to be the vice president's future wife. Not that she even knows who that will be. She argues, but would marrying him really make someone happy? He doesn't exactly give off a warm and fuzzy vibe. Young Soo-jin declares she would take serious over silly any day, and doesn't she think there is a reason he acts like that? Maybe he has been through something painful. She then reveals it happened a long time ago. His mother was in a terrible car accident. She died on the spot, but there is a rumor she wasn't alone. There was another man in the car with her. She heard the two of them were having an affair. And Woo Seung kept it under wraps, so one knows for sure, but that is the story. They say the VP was just a kid back then. If it were her, she would probably have major trust issues too. Only now Yu finds out the rumors surrounding him and the chairman's words back then make sense, that because of one woman's lie, their family suffered a deep wound. If that is true, she wonders, how much pain must he have carried all this time? At dinner time, he drops a text to you, who replies that she's at home, surprising him. Not a restaurant but home. When he steps through the door, she's already there to greet him, wearing a teddy bear apron. The table is already set. He looks over the spread and asks if she really made all this herself. Yu simply tells him he said he was fine with anything, so she cooked at home. Then, almost like an afterthought, she adds that he can believe it or not, but she happens to be the daughter of a Chinese restaurant owner, no need to eat out when she can cook. He admits he did not expect her to be such a great cook. She says exactly. Now they're talking and suddenly they're learning about each other. She then asks him what is in his hand. He replies it is a bottle of wine, a gift from one of their partners. And asks if she wants to have someone dinner. She realizes this is the moment, with the little wine they might actually have a real, honest conversation tonight. Later, as they eat, she asks him does it suit his taste. He admits she is even better than his aunt. This is amazing. But then his gaze lands on her hand and he asks if she is hurt. She hesitantly says it has been a while since she cooked so she slipped up a bit. Just needed to put some ointment on it. He suddenly says he knows how hard she works, catching her off guard and admits after putting some thought into it, she was right. If they want this contract marriage to actually work, they need to understand each other better. He will try to and tells her his favorite food is army stew. She smiles and says that's the last thing she would have guessed. Unbothered he replies what did he think? That he only dined on steak and pasta? Then, extending a wine bottle toward her, he asks if she wants some. As he pours, he casually adds it's surprising that she drinks, alcohol just didn't seem like her style. She says another stereotype. After a beat, he calls out to her again, this time more deliberately, saying there's something he's been curious about for a while. Why does she always wear clothes that don't fit? She instantly straightens as he continues that she is not quite like the other female employees or secretaries he has seen. How should he put it into words? It just feels like she's hiding something. She blurts out because she hates it the way people look at her. He asks her if she's ashamed of how she looks. She replies no, it's not like that. It is not about being ashamed. And recalls the horrifying moments that she has been through. She suddenly picks up the drink and starts drinking it. Looking at him, she tells him everyone has something from their past they would rather not talk about, right? And asks him to pour her another glass. As he does, he casually says he just cannot figure her out. She was the one who suggested they should open up to each other, but he still doesn't know. What is it that she's keeping from him? But anyway, since he is her husband, even if on paper if she ever feels comfortable, she can tell him anytime. Blush creeps across her cheeks, but then she tells herself to pull herself together. This isn't what she thinks. She replies she is not sure that is something he really needs to know. He says fair enough. If she's not ready, that's okay. But now that he looks more closely, has she always had so few freckles? But then he quickly asks, forget it, he's sorry, that was rude of him. She got so caught up cooking she forgot to fix her makeup. What should she do now? If this keeps up, he will find out the truth. She stands to head for the bathroom but suddenly sways, vision blurring, it must be the wine. He grabs her before she falls, reminding her she'd said she could handle her drinks. She giggles that it was true back in her 20s. Her body won't cooperate, her eyes close, and she's out. He carries her to the first floor guest room, settles her on the bed, and notices her freckles look lighter tonight. Reaching to touch her cheek, he loses his balance and ends up falling forward, braced above her. The next day, she tells him to review and approve the proposal from the planning team and adds she has also already arranged for the company driver for this afternoon's external meeting. He tells her good work, but then she asks him if everything was all right last night. What does that mean, he asks, feigning indifference. Yu remembers getting up to go to the bathroom, but after all that, it is all blank. When she came to, she was in the guest room. He assures her not to worry, nothing happened. She was pretty drunk so he moved her to the first floor. He casually adds she was heavier than she looked, so he couldn't carry her up to the second. Laughing it off, she says got it. Time to get back to work. But, he thinks to himself, nothing happened. Of course something did. She was way too close. All he could do was look at her. Now he wonders why did he do that? His body just wouldn't listen to him. Was it the alcohol? Or maybe he just wanted to take a look at her a little longer. Assistant manager Kong Yun Jong from the brand marketing department walks in, eyes Yu, and comments that she's wearing the exact same suit as yesterday. She adds that you should consider buying clothes that actually fit her. When Yu frowns, she quips not to tell her she doesn't even know her own measurements. Yu calmly replies that this isn't the same suit, yesterday was beige, today is mid-brown, and maybe Kong isn't great with color distinctions. Kong shoots back, claiming she knows colors just fine, but Yu's outfits always look like they came from her dad's closet. Muttering whatever, she turns to leave, saying she has something to report to the vice president, and asks if he's in. You think she's going to barge in anyway, so why bother asking? She listens as Kong switches to a sweet voice when greeting him, thinking the assistant manager seems to age in reverse, at least in front of him. Then she wonders only in front of him. She has always been like this, but for some reason it is especially annoying today. That night, when he returns, he notices her coat tossed on the sofa. He calls out that it's down here, but there's no reply. Announcing he's heading up, he climbs the stairs and finds the lights off, wondering if she went out again. But then he spots an elephant toy near the doorway. Stepping into her room, he switches on his phone torch and sees elephant pictures scattered around. Just then, the bathroom door opens and she steps out with a towel wrapped around her head, only to scream and drop to her knees. He quickly apologizes while she yells, demanding what he's doing there. He simply says she left her coat downstairs. She shoves him out of the room, and from the hallway he huffs, saying she can show her arms and legs all she wants, it wouldn't interest him. From inside, she calls back then what would. He replies elephants. At her confusion, he clarifies he meant the elephant in that photo hanging on the wall. It had the body parts labeled and everything. She mumbles that is just for the decor, isn't it cute? He says really, he figured she had a weird hobby or something and anyway, he will leave her coat hair on the chair. She thanks him, but then hesitates, saying that him coming up like that without a word really startled her. He looks a little stunned and apologizes again, saying he was heading back downstairs anyway and tells her to get some rest. She thinks that was close. She almost let her real identity slip. The vice president, who is always so guarded, she never expected him to come up to the second floor. Now she's forced to consider if, in the end, the more they open up to each other, the more it is only a matter of time before her secret comes out. The next morning, Yu and Sujin have come out during their break to a restaurant. But just then, manager Kong walks in with a friend of hers. Upon seeing them, she remarks for them to be meeting Yu and Sujin here. She guesses everyone must have a similar taste in places. After casually telling them to enjoy their meal, she simply walks away. But Jisoo turns with a frown and asks Yu, why is manager Kong here too? It's completely killing her appetite. She mutters that she wonders who they're going to gossip about this time while eating again. Suddenly, the girl with manager Kong says, isn't you wearing that same suit again today? When she first saw her, she genuinely thought she was a clown. Kong replies that Yu's only been dressing weird for a day or two, but still, every time she sees her, she wants to hand out fashion advice. The friend then complains, saying why does the company even hire people without looking at their appearance? She adds that nobody around you tells her to at least wear clothes that fit her properly. Kong says that's exactly what she's saying, if that's the face of a visor, then shouldn't she at least wear some makeup or do something to hide it a little? They go further, saying that she's even going around with Sujin. Isn't she embarrassed like that? Dragging Sujin down and tarnishing her face. Sujin finally snaps, saying they're being too harsh, but she assures Sujin that it's fine, she's not bothered by it. Her friend looks at her, clearly upset, and asks how she can possibly not be angry. She thinks to herself, it's because this disguise is her own choice. But aloud, she simply replies, does she really think she's only heard those kinds of comments once or twice? She adds that, honestly, for her mental health, it's just easier not to react or engage with them. Sujin sighs and says that even though she's her friend, she really is amazing. She herself really wants to flip out, but she's holding back only because of her. Just then, an advertisement comes up on the nearby screen, and they instantly recognize the actress featured in it. Sujin points and says that she's really doing well these days, she even shot a Sarah commercial. Whether it's dramas or commercials, there's nowhere she doesn't appear now. At this rate, she's probably going to end up marrying the vice president. Yu replies, who knows? She might just be like a younger sister to the vice president. Sujin snorts and says it's actually a little pathetic how Jong Hira keeps going in and out of the vice president's office like that, trying so hard to make an impression. But still, she isn't a regular person, but a top celebrity actress among the trending ones. The vice president is also a man. If a pretty well-maintained celebrity keeps pursuing him, wouldn't he fall for it? And their vice president isn't just an ordinary person either. To be on the same level as the vice president, one would have to be at least like Jong Hira. On the other hand, Jong Hira is at a shoot. The cameraman remarks that it's looking great, the transparent, feminine atmosphere fits the concept perfectly. She smiles and replies that she can't stop feeling happy at his compliments. He then asks if they should take a short break and continue afterward. Her manager approaches and tells her that her facial expressions today were really good. In return, Hira suggests they go out for a moment. She adds that she's in a bit of a hurry right now. Outside, Her manager sighs and asks, couldn't she have held it in a little longer? Hyare replies that as her manager, she has to understand. Does she know how hard it is to work with a bunch of old, hairy men? But the manager asks is she smoking because of him again? Hyare suddenly screams in frustration. This is driving her crazy. She's missing him crazily. She turns to her manager and says she already knows everything. When she calls him, he picks up maybe 1 out of 10 times. If she doesn't go find him herself, there won't be any news at all. Her manager tries to reason with her, saying this UK photo shoot took longer than expected, and he's constantly out and about. He's the vice president of a major company, of course he must be busy. But Jong Hyare looks at her sharply and asks if she really thinks she would give up because of that. No matter how much he refuses, she will follow him even if it's to the ends of the earth. Meanwhile, Do Hyun is in his office, replaying the events of the night before. He also checks a few dinner reservations. Then, picking up his phone, he calls her and asks her to come in for a moment. When she walks in, he tells her it's nothing major, he just needs her to make a dinner reservation at the J Hotel restaurant for 7 p.m. tonight. She replies she will reserve a private room as usual, then asks how many people. But he says a private room feels a bit too formal. Instead, she should book a window-side table. It's for 2 people. She writes it down while noting to herself that the J Hotel restaurant has become quite the hotspot for couples lately. She can't help but wonder could it be Hyare? He adds one more instruction, make the reservation under her name. She says she will go ahead and book it, then turns to leave. But suddenly she stops. Turning back, she asks did he say to put the reservation under her name? He looks at her and confirms that's right. Is she free? Then adds they should have dinner together at the J Hotel restaurant. She stands there, momentarily frozen in surprise. On her way back, the receptionist smiles at her and asks if something good happened today. She looks different from usual. She blurts out really, does she look that different? He questions is she going to see her boyfriend or something? She exclaims of course not. Then she admits it is a guy, but he's not her boyfriend and it is definitely not a date. He asks, just like a guy friend, one of those? She replies yeah, kind of like that. Later, seated at the restaurant, she thinks to herself, a date? As if, technically, it's just dinner to get to know each other better. But truthfully, it still feels way too risky. As long as they don't cross any lines, it'll be fine. If they keep it businesslike, there won't be any trouble. Before she even realizes he's arrived, the air around the restaurant shifts, girls start whispering and glancing toward the entrance. Then he appears, making his way over. He apologizes, saying he had to take a call from Director Jiang, and adds that she must be starving. Why didn't she order first? She says it's fine, she just got here too. When the food arrives, he asks what she actually knows about him outside of work. She thinks for a moment before replying, he likes army stew, he's usually reserved but there's one unusual thing, he's really into elephants. He pauses, then tells her that's a misunderstanding, something he once mentioned in passing. She chuckles and asks what about her, what does he know? He starts to answer but struggles, clearly scrambling. She tells him it's okay, he can just admit he doesn't know. He takes a bite and says honestly, he really doesn't. So starting now, she will have to tell him, and he promises to do his best to remember. Then, out of nowhere, she asks, how about a family story tonight? He answers quietly ever since he was a kid, his father always came home late from work, and his mother. He trails off. A memory surfaces, him excitedly asking his mother to look at a drawing he made at school. She's busy getting ready, barely glancing his way, and says good job without even looking. Before leaving, she tells him she has plans, so he should eat with his aunt and stay home until daddy returns. The memory fades. He resumes cutting his steak and mutters that she was always too busy. Even if he doesn't say it out loud, she can still feel it. The vice president still carries a grudge towards his mother. Deep in his heart, he always seems so composed, so perfect, but even someone like him has scars. Somehow he feels a little sad. He offers her the bottle, asking if she wants a drink, and as he pours, he reminds her not to overdo it, they're not at home like last time. She assures him she's learned her lesson and that won't happen again. Around them, people begin whispering, clearly surprised, wondering if that really is her boyfriend, claiming he's way out of her league unless she's secretly loaded, which, judging by her appearance, they doubt. He asks if those people are talking about them, and she admits that to others, they probably do seem mismatched. He tells her not to let things like that get to her and says he proposed because he saw how sincere and capable she is, not because of how she looks. She asks if he really doesn't care about her appearance, and he replies that the way she says it makes it sound like there's still something he hasn't seen, leaving her stunned and scrambling to insist otherwise. On the ride back, She thanks him for the meal, and he says she really ate a lot, that honestly, he blanked out at some point and she just kept going. Embarrassed, she thinks of course she ate, it was delicious. Just then, the car jerks sharply as the driver swerves to avoid a cat, quickly apologizing. When the man checks if they're okay, she starts to reply but pauses, noticing that Do-hyun's hand is stretched across her, shielding her without even realizing. She turns to him, caught off guard, wondering quietly what is this. He quickly pulls his hand back, muttering an apology and saying he was just trying to avoid other areas, which only makes her face flush red. He stumbles over his words, trying to explain himself more than he intended to, until she turns sharply and yells, "What?" He averts his gaze and insists it's nothing. She presses what does he mean by more than he thought. But he tells her to forget it. The next day at the office, she gets a call notifying her that Young Hee-ra is on her way up, and before she can even respond, the woman walks in, confidently greeting her and saying she's here to see him. When she offers to inform the president, Hee-ra waves it off, saying there's no need for formalities between them, she doesn't need permission to see him. With that, she strides toward his office, calling out, "Appa," as she enters. He's on a call but ends at the moment he sees her, asking why she's here again. She pouts, accusing him of being mean. How could he say that? Did he even realize how many times she tried to contact him? How could he ignore every single one? He tells her she knows how busy he is and that he hasn't even kept up with his own messages lately, and dropping by like this isn't really okay. Suddenly, she blurts out a question, has he met someone else? The unexpectedness of it makes him flinch. He asks what she's talking about, and even if he had, what would that have to do with her? She crosses her arms and glares at him, accusing him of being suspicious. He's not even denying it. Suddenly, she yells out, demanding if he really did meet someone, is that it? His gaze flickers toward you, who's sitting outside, and without another word, he presses the button to shield the window from view. He asks her if she's really going to act like this wherever she wants, in any place she pleases. But she only trembles and cries that he's the only one she has. She reminds him of the past, how her mom just kept taking beatings from their dad, and in the end, left them behind. She had thought he was the only shield she had left. She had nothing left to lose, that's why she had gone up there, to the roof of that school. But he had stopped her, asked what she was doing there, and that moment, when he reached out and held her back, that was everything. That was what it meant to her. Thanks to him, she was able to start living again. She asks if he even realizes what he means to her. He quietly replies that he gets it now, and tells her to let go of him. Out of nowhere, she brings up next week, is that the right day? And asks if he's going to take her with him. His voice turns stunned as he suddenly pushes her away and tells her no, there's no way. Her tone turns hollow as she replies that if that's how he feels, then there's nothing more to say, she will get going. Before walking out, she tells him to pick up his phone sometimes. As she exits, Yu calls out to ask if she's leaving. She turns to her, leans in and says she really likes you. She admits that at first, she was shocked to hear that Appa had a female secretary. She knows the stereotype, pretty, bold secretaries seducing their bosses, but Yu doesn't seem like that at all, and she liked that about her. Yu isn't sure if that's supposed to be a compliment or an insult. Hee-ra sighs and remarks that now he's seeing someone. Yu plays dumb and asks what she means. Hee-ra says it's a woman's intuition, and since Yu is his secretary, she figured she might know something. Yu blurts that she wouldn't know about any of that. Hee-ra then says if she ever sees any woman flirting with Appa, she better let her know right away. She swears she'll kill her. Yu stands frozen, practically fearing for her life, but Hee-ra just flashes a sweet smile and says she's counting on her, before finally leaving. Later, while Yu picks up some documents and notes that the vice president has a strategy meeting at 3 p.m., her eyes fall on a familiar circle drawn on the calendar, a date he marks every year without fail. And she doubts he has any different plans for it this year either. Now that she thinks about it, he usually takes the day off around this time every year. She wonders what day is it. She drops a text to Sujin, asking if she's at her desk, and the reply comes instantly. She then asks if she happens to know when the vice president's mother passed away. Sujin replies that she doesn't know the exact date, but she heard it was sometime in the summer. She realizes it might be her Memorial Day. It's not something she can ask outright since she wonders if that would be overstepping. Elsewhere, a memory stirs in him, a little boy waking up in the middle of the night, quietly padding through the dark hallways in search of his mother. He pushed her bedroom door open with hope in his eyes, only to find her in the arms of another man. He had frozen on the spot. He jolts awake in bed. Just then, the alarm rings beside him. Today is that day, his mother's memorial. As he heads downstairs to leave, he finds Yu waiting near the entrance, asking if she can go with him. He asks her if she even knows where he's going. She replies she's going with him to visit his mother to the columbarium. She saw the date marked on the calendar on his desk and put the pieces together. She admits she might be overstepping but reminds him that, technically, she is his daughter-in-law. He tells her she's sharp, but his mother wasn't the kind to wait around for a daughter-in-law's respect, and he will go alone. But she counters if the chairman were to find out, wouldn't he find it strange? That on his mother's Memorial Day, his daughter-in-law didn't go with him. That thought stills him. After a moment, he mutters that he's leaving now. Is that okay? She smiles. On the way, heavy rain lashes against the windows as they sit in silence, but then he glances at her. Upon arrival, she looks around in disbelief, saying she didn't expect a place like this to be part of a columbarium. Is he sure this is it? He tells her it's a private section reserved for Wuzheng. When she sees the picture of his mother, she blurts out that he takes after her. But his expression sharpens as he snaps that she should never say that again. He hates hearing it, it sends chills down his spine. She apologizes. Ever since he was a kid, that woman lived however she pleased and brought nothing but misery to the rest of the family. He confesses he already resents being her son. There is no need for her to carry that burden too, even if she is Wuzheng's daughter-in-law. He realizes he is right. Who is she to say anything about someone even the vice president couldn't accept? But still she is here for a reason. He says he said what he needed to, they should go now. But she extends some flowers to him, explaining that it's a preserved flower, treated to last like a fresh one. Since it's her first time visiting, she didn't want to come empty-handed. Maybe his mother wasn't the type to expect anything from a daughter-in-law, like he said, but even so, she asks him to place it there on her behalf. He gazes down at the bouquet, wondering why she treats his mother like she's someone precious to her. He admits he never had any intention of giving flowers to that woman, but she clearly puts so much thought into it. Then his gaze trails to her outfit and he remarks that he's never seen it before. She replies that she figured it wouldn't be right to just show up in anything, so she made an effort. She thanks him again for letting her come with him today. Blushing, he tells her she looks nice, catching her completely off guard. She stiffens, panic bubbling up. What was that just now? That scared her. As they part ways back at the penthouse, he suddenly calls out to her. She stops and turns, asking if there's something he wanted to say. He hesitates, eyes flicking away, then mutters a quiet, "Thank you for being with him." She smiles and reminds him he was the one who gave her permission. She says she'll really get going now, admitting she must have been tense without realizing it. Her arms and legs feel strangely weak. She tells him she will see him tomorrow. Later, as he showers, his thoughts drift to the flowers she gave him earlier, and how she quietly thanked him for letting her come along today. He catches his own reflection in the mirror and mutters for himself to get a grip. The next day, a message pops up from a contact named Ha Yo, saying she's at the cafe in front of her office and to come quickly. She rushes over and asks what's going on all of a sudden. Ha Yo says it's a bit complicated to explain over the phone. What could be so complicated? She asks, to which Ha Yo replies, what else is there to explain except family issues? It really sucks that she is Yang Shin's daughter. One of the Korean leading food companies, Yongshin Holdings. Ha Yo grew up with her single mother, never knowing her father. It was only after she lost her only family, her mother, in an accident that she found out her father was the vice president of Yongshin's holding. He brought her into the company as an executive. But the label of illegitimate child constantly wounded her as someone tied to the Yongshin family. Ha Yo remarks it looks like a slush fund scandal is about to break out at Yongshin and it seems like they're planning to use her to cover it up. Yu asks use her how? She replies. The long-rumored youngest daughter of Yongshin finally appears in public. She thinks she's going to get dragged to the Yongshin VIP party soon. So she was wondering if her best friend can save her this once. Yu asks how exactly is she supposed to do that? She replies she wants her to come with her to the party. She suddenly yells asking is she crazy? How could she possibly go to something like that? She has zero connection to Yongshin. She makes puppy eyes at her best friend and tells her that is exactly why she wants her to come. She knows that better than any when she has no allies at that kind of event. No doubt they are going to try and humiliate her somehow. She can just stand next to her. That is all she asks. If she is by her side, she thinks she will feel a bit safer. She quickly adds just 3 hours, but not as she is now, to go as her real self. Yu yells at her friend that makes it even more dangerous. She replies not really, who would ever guess she's the same person as Yu Yun, right? She assures her no one will recognize her. Seriously, no one, so can she go? Just then, the vice president steps into the cafe and spots them both. She quickly gets up and asks him what brings him here. He replies flatly it's a cafe, obviously, he came to get coffee. But then silence falls as he gazes at her. She quickly asks if there's something on her face, but he simply turns away and says nothing. Then his gaze lands on Ha Yul. He asks who this is, doesn't look like someone from the company. Ha Yul rises with a smile, introducing herself as her friend and saying she's heard so much about him. He returns the greeting. Yu leans in closer, whispering she's her closest friend, the only one who knows about their relationship, a trustworthy friend so he doesn't need to worry. And then she mischievously adds that, honestly, she knows more of her secrets than she knows hers. She promises she would never say a word about them. He watches her intently, but the moment he notices the lack of distance, he instinctively pulls back. Yu realizes it too and quickly apologizes, saying she was trying to speak quietly and guesses she leaned in too far. Ha Yul doesn't miss the way he leaned back. Then he hands over his card to her and tells her to bring the usual. He then says he will let the two continue their conversation and leaves. Ha Yul quickly questions what that was just now. She raises the card and replies that it means, get mine while you're getting yours. But Ha Yul says that's not what she meant, she's asking if he's always that cold with her. She admits he's a bit more distant than usual today, but that's basically the standard. She mumbles this is a problem, this is really just a contract. This confuses you, but her friend narrows her eyes, thinking she got married just to be treated like this. She was all in, thinking it might actually turn into a real marriage, and the clueless Ui Yun is sitting there acting like everything is fine. Ha Yul thinks it has been a whole 8 years. It is about time that she finally gets over it. As her true friend, she will make it her mission to RIP off that wig at the VIP party. And then Do Hyun won't be able to ignore her either. And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part.